straight into the roof of the net. Nice one. Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams here.
Hi, I'm Rupha Ramani and you're watching Firstpost. Let's get started. Right, we love the underdog stories. But what happened at the Australian Open is far from that. Jannik Sinner has been trying to push against the world order. For a while now, he has broken down barriers, questioned the norms. Djokovic, in his attempt to do what no human has, win a 25th Grand Slam title, has been stopped in his tracks. Jannik Sinner has now done what no human could, beat Novak Djokovic in a semi-final of the Australian Open. More on that later. And speaking of underdogs, they're having the time under the sun at the AFC Asian Cup football tournament. How did they manage to go through? And where did India lose the plot? Also, there is a lot of backlash after the NBA All-Star list was announced. LeBron James has yet another record to his name, but fans are still furious on much more and some omissions. We'll stay on to know more on that, but first, all the headlines from around the world in Sports 360. We'll start with news from the Australian Open. Daniil Medvedev has pulled out a stunner. He beat Alexander Zverev in the semi-final. Zverev dominated, winning the first two sets, but Medvedev made a brilliant comeback. In fact, the second time he's done this in the slam, winning the match 5-7, 3-6, 7-6, 7-6, 6-3. He's made it to the third Aussie Open final and is all set to meet Jannik Sinner for the title. India's tennis doubles specialist Rohan Bopanna has been nominated for the Padma Shri, an honour conferred by the Indian government. He's poised to be crowned world number one and will play his Australian Open doubles final tomorrow. Bopanna, who's 43, is also the oldest world number one. 6 other athletes from across disciplines like squash, hockey, swimming and badminton have also been named. In cricket, India's Virat Kohli was awarded the ICC ODI Men's Player of the Year for 2023. This was the 4th time that Kohli was honoured with the award. Other notable award winners were Australian skipper Pat Cummins, Usman Khawaja and Surya Kumar Yadav. Over in women's cricket, England's Natalie Sciver won Women's Cricketer of the Year award. Other notable awardees here were West Indies' Hayley Matthews and Sri Lankan Chamari Atapattu. Zimbabwe's Wesley Madavere and Brandon Mavuta have been handed a 4-month ban from international cricket. This is because they have been found guilty of recreational drug use. Zimbabwe's cricket board has also fined both the players 50% of their salaries for the next 3 months starting from January. And we're rounding it off with some shocking news from football and from the Liverpool camp. Jurgen Klopp has decided to step down as manager at the end of the season. He said, and I quote, "I'm running out of energy and need to take this decision." It was a heartwarming farewell. He led Liverpool to their first league title in 30 years. Liverpool also lifted the Champions Trophy under his tenure. Now, if you missed watching the Australian Open men's semi-finals today, both of them, please make sure you catch the highlights, though I feel it won't do justice. What we witnessed today, especially in the first semi-final, was nothing short of sensational. No highlights package can really match up to every single point, every single set, and the emotions really that went down at the Rod Laver Arena. When Jannik Sinner took on defending champion Novak Djokovic, and in fact went on to become the first man to beat Djokovic at an Australian Open semi-final. Now, I'm going to come to the match and the relevance of it in just a bit, but this is probably a pivotal moment in men's tennis. Now, why do I say so? There comes a moment, a match that sort of changes everything, changes your perception or gives an indication of things to come or the change in an era itself. It happened in 1989, right? I'm going way back here, but hear me out. So 1989, a young 18-year-old beat the defending champion back then at the US Open, Mats Wilander. The boy I'm talking about was, of course, Pete Sampras, and from that moment on, he did not look back. It took another year for him to win his first Grand Slam, but this was a shift, and you knew the Sampras era had arrived. Fast forward to 2001 and the championships. Wimbledon, a young 19-year-old upsets defending champion Pete Sampras, and by doing that breaks Sampras' 31 match-winning streak at Wimbledon. That man went on to be the legend all of us were wowed by, Roger Federer. Of course, the first year he won a slam was 2003, but that win over Sampras dictated a shift in momentum. The FedEx era had begun. We move a few years to 2004, the first time Rafael Nadal played Roger Federer at an ATP event, Miami at Brecon, and he beat him. But the biggest win over Federer came a year later at where else but the French Open, and thus started the Rafa era. And when Novak Djokovic joined in and burst onto the scene, a unique three-way rivalry started. Now, Sinner's win over Djokovic at the Australian Open is the start of the Sinner era in men's tennis. Well, Carlos Alcaraz is there as well, joining in as part of the new era. And ironically for Sinner, it has come at the very place where it all started for the Serb, Novak, in 2008. Talking of the match itself, Jannik Sinner was flawless from the start. He put on the pressure on the Serb from the first set, taking both the first two sets with a lot of confidence. He dominated the match, taking a 6-1, 6-2 lead. But Sinner was not smiling because Novak has the most frustrating habit, frustrating for the opponents that is, of not giving in, of coming back even from the most difficult of situations and bouncing right back with a vengeance, something the opponent is not expecting. And Djokovic did show some glimmer of it, that world number one tag, when he came right back to take the third set, immediately reminding us all of that Wimbledon quarterfinal where Sinner won the first two sets, but Djokovic somehow clawed back and won the next three. But this time, Sinner was focused. Even when play was halted for a while, I think a fan had fainted, probably owing to the heat. He got back up fine, but any such unforeseen pauses in a match can really break the momentum. It can shift focus, but it didn't shake Sinner. Even when Djokovic took a break and went off the courts after he won the third set, Sinner was not restless, he was not perturbed, he was not nervous. He was just ready to start and continue from where he left off. The focus was 100%, like he'd said before the match, that all he could do was control what he could on court, and he did that. There was no world number one in front of him, no 24 slam winner staring down at him. He just went on, with no expression but just sheer determination. What unsettled Djokovic in the match was not just the way Sinner was getting all his shots back, but the depth and the power with which he was doing so. The service returns were on point, and even in uncomfortable positions, even when on the run, Sinner was hitting the shots back at alarming pace and accuracy. And the fact that Sinner's serves were more impactful today than Djokovic's only put added pressure. Then the whole drop shots tactic. That is one skill Novak has mastered, but Sinner had prepped for it. In fact, just some days back, he and his coaching staff was only practicing how to get to the drop shots and the kind of returns he should make from different parts of the court. So Sinner had done his homework for this encounter.
The first two sets, I saw that he was not hitting the ball as he used to. He was also not moving that well. And then I think he was also not that focused like we used to see him. So I saw this, but in the other way, being number one, you have to be ready for that he changes things up, and that he has done before in the third set, the level that was even. He's also maybe the best returner we have in the game. Didn't have one break point. So these are stats what are unusual for him. But in the other way, this can happen. In tennis, when you have a bad day, it's also tough to get out as a winner. So I realized, especially the first sets, he was not playing that great. But I tried to have the intensity as high as possible, and I took the chance.
Yes, by the time the fourth set happened, Novak, who was still in the hunt, was definitely frustrated, and it showed as he vented against the match referee for not shushing the crowd. But he was absolutely warm towards Sinner after the loss. There was an interesting anecdote as well that was revealed post the match. Sinner, when he had faced Djokovic in 2021, had lost to him. After that loss, Sinner's coach had gone over to Djokovic and had asked him what tips he could give so that Sinner could improve his game. And Djokovic shared some advice which the coach took back to Sinner. A heartwarming anecdote, and probably shows a side to Novak Djokovic, one that we probably don't see as much. Now, after the loss, of course, Djokovic said that Sinner outplayed him in the match, and that it was the fact that it was his worst Grand Slam outing. Now that we know, but today is all about Jannik Sinner. When Saudi Arabia was busy celebrating the number one and number two in the world, Novak Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz, just some months back at an exhibition event, the cool and composed Jannik Sinner was busy skiing down some icy slopes. The calm-headed Sinner is able to take those cold, hard decisions, like changing his longest-standing coaching staff at the start of 2023 and bringing in someone like Simon Vagnozzi and Darren Cahill. And he trusts them blindly to see him reach their collective goal, which is being number one. Sinner is open to constantly reinventing himself and getting better. Like last year when he made a change in his service action, and we see how powerful and impactful that has become. He's making cool, calculated decisions to keep bettering himself so that he can win Grand Slams and do it more consistently. And today, the 22-year-old sits in the final on the cusp of history. He's the first Italian man to reach the final of an Australian Open and is waiting to script something special. Up against him, though, is someone who can come back from near defeat, like he did in that other semi-final, Daniil Medvedev, who pulled out a stunning 5-set victory over Sasha Zverev. And what a cracking final that promises to be this weekend. Now, the world is watching two of football's biggest tournaments in progress. One's, of course, in Africa. We've been speaking about it. That's bringing some dramatic events both on and off the field. And the other one in West Asia, the AFC Asian Cup 2023. And the round of 16 starts this weekend. Now, AFC Cup has been electrifying this year. Now, why do I say it? Let's start with the team who's reached the knockouts for the very first time. I've got to go with Palestine first. After an emphatic 3-0 win over Hong Kong, it was one of those matches that transcended the scoreline. The crowd's loud cheers, the flags waving, the players really soaking it all in. Everything was pretty overwhelming for the players in particular, who came into the tournament even as a war continues to wage back home. Right till the final whistle, over 6,000 spectators were roaring for them. It was rather touching to see the emotionally charged players drop to the ground, breaking down into tears. Mohamed Salah, not the one who's recovering from an injury, this is Palestinian footballer Saleh, who was born in Gaza. He couldn't hold back his emotions. He knelt to the ground with his face buried in the grass, sobbing. Their players are out giving people hope, trying to block out what could be happening back home. Many of their homes may have been bombed, but these players are only trying to block all of that out and just play. Their coach, in fact, dedicated the qualification to the round of 16 to the people of Palestine. He called his players heroes. Like he said, they were demonstrating what they are meant to do, like they have nothing to lose. He said they will continue to give their best and only hope that they can maintain focus in the competition to come. Now, Palestine's victory lies in the team's victory. These heroes are making people realize there's light at the end of the tunnel. Listen in to these players before the tournament opener.
We know that any team in this tournament will be very, very difficult to win them. But Iran, all people know that they are one of the best teams and the favorite teams here. But we are prepared to fight in this game, to give our 100%.
Of course, we ask big support from the fans. We hope they stand with us because
the fans, of course, were vociferous, supporting all these players. In fact, one match between Palestine and UAE was particularly tense. Chants of Free Palestine were heard when the teams walked out of the tunnel, and every time UAE had the ball in possession, the crowd would boo them. The significance of this has not escaped sporting arenas everywhere. From pamphlets being thrown onto a tennis court, to a cricketer fighting with the system to sport a message of humanity on his gear. On to another country now, which tells a perfect underdog story, Tajikistan. They have qualified to the round of 16 as well, and in their debut year, much of Tajikistan's group stage matches were low-scoring affairs. It felt like they were waiting for a moment to explode, and it came against Lebanon. Tajikistan came from behind to snatch a 2-1 victory over Lebanon. Tajikistan's national sport, in fact, is Gustigiri, a form of wrestling. It's a sport where physicality and toughness are fundamental. So that's sort of translated in their playing style here at the AFC. For a country where football is not one of its primary sports, qualifying for such a tournament in itself is a huge thing. In fact, the country's best achievement before this was winning the Asian Challenge Cup in 2006. It's a tournament for emerging countries. So their underdog story is what dreams are made of. But it's a very rare occurrence, to be honest, when underdogs steal the show, which is why India crashing out shouldn't surprise many. They produced one of their worst performances in 40 years, having lost all of their group matches. Captain Sunil Chhteri wasn't as sharp either. In his last 5 internationals, in fact, he hasn't managed to score a single goal. But it's also probably the expectations that's weighing down on him, especially with experienced players out with injury. India's goal conversion concerns were obvious. What I mean is they created enough chances but failed to find the back of the net or convert them. Other than Chhetri, they don't have a senior expert goal scorer. In a post-match conference after the Blue Tigers lost to Uzbekistan, Their coach Igor Stimac was asked who could possibly emulate Chhetri's role. He didn't even blink to say, or take a second longer, to say no one. Imagine that. There's no one who comes close to being as good as Chhetri has for India.
Getting out of that defending mindset, which comes back at us again and again throughout the games against difficult opponents, and that's hunting us, I need to tell you, and it will take us more time, obviously.
But the Asian Cup also had a silver lining for them. Players like Shubhashish Bose and Rahul Beke got opportunities to prove themselves. The AFC Asian Cup also witnessed instances of racism. No surprises there. It's something that never spares the game. Japan's goalkeeper was at the receiving end this time. It happened online though. His name is Zion Suzuki. Suzuki had made an error during the game against Iraq, which gave the opposition the lead. That was enough for all the racist comments to come at him. Japan, though, are through to the round of 16 and they are one of the favourites as well, like South Korea, another contender for the title. But they haven't been at their best lately. They managed to scrap through to the round of 16, because of which they have been targeted. Star player Son Heung-min, their skipper, in fact appealed to fans back home to just be a little kind. He says there have been very rude comments towards his team and their performances. AFC Asian Cup has proved so far that star power and contender tags don't really mean too much. As long as there is a lot of heart, there could be nothing much stopping you. The NBA, or National Basketball Association, has been in the news for some of the most controversial things over the last few months, like Draymond Green physically attacking his opponent and getting suspended, and now missing the team sheet for the Olympics, and then, of course, the Pistons with their infamous record equaling losses. Now, guess what? There is more drama unfolding now. With the NBA All-Star Game coming up next month, there's a lot of hype surrounding this one. And one man is at the heart of it, superstar LeBron James. NBA announced its All-Star starters, and LeBron was picked for a record 20th time. With this, he has gone past legendary Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But one man is not celebrating, and that is Steph Curry. He missed out for the first time since way back in 2013. All of this has created quite some noise and doesn't seem to have gone down too well with the fans in particular.
Fans can't wait for the 18th of February when NBA stars take the field. While there were some obvious names that made it to the list, there were a few shocking omissions. But before we decode all that, what is the NBA All-Stars and why is it super important? The NBA All-Stars is an exhibition match hosted every year in February. It pits Eastern Conference teams with Western Conference teams for the All-Star Final. The starting lineup for each squad is decided by a combination of fans, player and media voting. Here's the breakdown. Fan voting counts for 50%. Voting by players themselves counts for 25%. And voting by a panel of writers and broadcasters in the media basically counts for another 25%. While LeBron James will lead the West All-Star, the East All-Star will be led by Giannis Antetokounmpo. LeBron was picked for a 20th consecutive year, and clearly the Lakers superstar is in no mood of slowing down.
Consistency. You have to do it over and over and over. Every year. It's not just doing it in one season or 1 month. You have to do it year after year after year. When teams gun for you and you're still able to produce every single night. I think that's what defines it.
That was LeBron James almost a decade ago in 2015. It's a champion mindset that's present even today. But one omission seems to have rattled many fans: Steph Curry. He's been part of the All-Stars since 2013. Fans are livid at the absence of the Warriors star. Despite the Warriors' poor season, Curry has been at his best. In fact, last year, Curry was ranked 7th in the NBA based on average points per game. So the omission is shocking. And one man is particularly facing the ire of the fans: Kevin Durant. Picked an All-Star starter for the 14th time, he's facing severe backlash over a statement he made about Mount Rushmore. The superstar forward was recently asked to name his Mount Rushmore of best scorers since the year 2000. Durant didn't blink an eye to say this. Just the 2000s? Me, Kobe, T-Mac and Bron. While Durant picked Kobe Bryant, Tracy McGrady, LeBron James and himself, fans went to town roasting Durant for snubbing Steph Curry. Durant clearly chose the wrong moment to be rather spontaneous. But all of this chatter has created enough of a stir on social media platforms around the NBA All-Stars. Everyone is gearing up to catch some super action and more drama in the weeks to come.
Now we've come to the end of the show and it's time for Last Serve. Now this is billed as the biggest face-off of 2024. Lionel Messi versus Cristiano Ronaldo. Inter Miami versus Al Nassr. Well, one man has definitely shown up for the battle. Riyadh welcomed Messi ahead of the Season Cup friendlies coming up. But that does it here on Firstpost. We hope you enjoyed our edition of Firstpost today. Have a great day and a very, very happy weekend. I'll see you again coming Monday soon with more fresh perspectives from the world of sports. Till then, bye-bye.